The Associated Press reported the WNBA was launching an investigation into alleged racial abuse directed at Reese by Fever fans. Rooting for Caitlin Clark.
Obviously, there's no place in this league for that. I think the WNBA and our team and our organization has done a great job supporting me. I've had communication from everyone, from so many people across this league, and being able to support me and going through this whole process. Obviously, it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone, and I think they've done a great job supporting us in this.
How did it affect you Saturday, trying to do your job, trying to play, and having this going on simultaneously?
Yeah, obviously it's tough, but I think I have a great support system. I'm loved by so many people, and obviously in the moment it's hard to hear, but my support system is great. God has protected me in so many different ways. I've gone through so many different things in the past couple of years of my life, but I think just having this support and this love and being a part of an organization that really supports me and loves me is something that I couldn't imagine not being a part of.
What do you think the league's response, just coming out right away and getting that investigation going?
Yeah, obviously, like I said, they understand that this is the priority. Obviously, there's no place for this, and they preach. I think 2 days before they put out no hate, no speech. And obviously, the women in this league, they know that, and know there's no space for that.
When it happened, what happened exactly? You were subjected to racism? What specifically? What happened? It was hard to hear. If it can happen to me, it can happen to... And did it happen to you? What exactly is your evidence that anything at all happened to you involving racism from the Fever fans? Okay, well, the evidence for why an investigation was launched by the WNBA was unspecified. The Daily Mail reported that Reese's coach and team only found out about the racism allegations when everyone else did, and they were not aware of any hate speech during the game. Angel Reese did not run off the court saying somebody said something racist to me. Now, the latest news is that they heard anonymous social media commentators saying there was racism. Oh, that's how you began your investigation? So nobody in the arena was actually complaining? She wasn't complaining? You, the coaches, didn't hear anything? It's some anonymous social media users who got this started. That's reliable.
Another day, another explosive controversy in the WNBA. But this one unraveled with such speed and theatrical flair that it's hard to believe it all started with a simple foul call. What began as a routine play between two of the league's most high-profile athletes spiraled into a national headline about race, accountability, and the dangers of weaponized narratives. At the center of it all, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, and a claim that now appears to have had no foundation at all.
The WNBA confirmed the investigation in a statement that read in part, the WNBA strongly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination in all forms. They have no place in our league or in our society. We are aware of the allegations and are looking into the matter. Then, Reese had a change of heart. She posted a TikTok video, which included this screenshot. It shows Clark walking away from Reese after the foul with the message, "White gal running from the fade." It has since been taken down by Reese. Exactly right. It's like, well, we barely want to watch the WNBA to begin with. People started to watch it because Caitlin Clark came in and was a total phenom. And like the female Michael Jordan is how people were describing her. And so she got bottoms in the seats and she got tickets sold and she got people watching on television. And then the response from the league was uniform hate. I shouldn't say uniform. Seems majority hate toward her, especially this Angel Reese, who obviously can't stand her and is insanely jealous of her and the attention she's getting, rather than basking in it, rather than enjoying the bigger spotlight that is on her as well. And you can get away with this because the WNBA seems to be just fine with anti-white racism and with Caitlin Clark going out there to flagellate herself with the "I'm working on my white privilege."
The drama began on May 17th during the season opener between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky. For fans, it was a highly anticipated matchup. Caitlin Clark, the rookie sensation, had brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball. On the opposing side was Angel Reese, a polarizing figure who'd made headlines long before this game. The game itself was heated. Physical, competitive, exactly what you'd expect when you throw two strong personalities on the court together. But then came the moment. Clark committed a flagrant foul. It was a quick slap on the arm as Reese drove to the basket. Reese hit the ground, got up fast, and stormed after Clark, clearly agitated. Given the energy on the floor, no one was surprised to see some tension. And yet, What came next stunned everyone. Clark, for her part, played it down. She explained that there was nothing malicious about the play. It was just basketball, tempers flare, bodies collide. It's part of the game. Surprisingly, Reese seemed to agree at first. She addressed reporters, calling it a regular basketball play. But not long after, the entire narrative shifted. Reese suddenly took to TikTok, posting a clip of the foul with the caption, "White gal running from the fade." The insinuation was immediate and clear. What had once been chalked up to normal gameplay was now being reframed through a racial lens. The post was taken down shortly after, but the damage was already done. The WNBA announced they were launching an investigation into allegations that Reese had been subjected to racist harassment during the game, specifically from Indiana Fever fans. Their statement emphasized the league's zero tolerance for hate, racism, or discrimination of any kind. But what wasn't included in the announcement was crucial. What exactly had happened? What had Reese experienced? Who made the accusations? And most importantly, what was the evidence? The only source appeared to be anonymous social media users who alleged that they had heard monkey sounds directed at Reese during a free throw following the flagrant foul. No names, no specifics, no direct witnesses, just a vague accusation amplified by a TikTok post and a few online rumors. Even more interesting, Reese's own coach and teammates were reportedly blindsided by the investigation. According to reports, they found out about the allegations at the same time as the public. No one on the bench had heard anything. No one had seen anything. The arena staff hadn't reported any issues. So, how exactly did this story gain so much traction? Some claimed that during Reese's free throw, monkey noises could be heard in the background. But when video of the moment was replayed across media platforms, what you actually heard was indistinct crowd noise. Maybe a plastic clapper, a noisemaker, or a party whistle. It sounded like what you'd expect at a high-energy basketball game, not the kind of coordinated racial attack the initial headlines suggested. And yet, the narrative had already taken hold. Sports analysts and media figures quickly jumped in. ESPN commentators declared the environment unsafe for Reese and called for serious accountability. Chants of racism filled social feeds, further escalating the situation. Many commentators spoke with certainty about events they hadn't witnessed firsthand, asserting that racism had undeniably taken place, even before the league had concluded its investigation. It didn't seem to matter that there were no named witnesses, no direct complaints, and no video evidence. The accusation alone was enough. The implication was that Angel Reese, a prominent black athlete, had been attacked with racist vitriol during a game, and the league, fans, and even Caitlin Clark were all part of the problem. But behind the scenes, questions were mounting. If Reese had truly been targeted, why hadn't she said so immediately after the game? Why had the coaches been unaware? And why was the only real evidence a now-deleted TikTok caption that joked about Clark being afraid of a fight? The league eventually conducted a 10-day investigation. They reviewed all available audio and video, spoke with arena staff, players, and fans. And finally, in a brief but damning statement, the WNBA admitted the truth. There was no evidence of racism. None. The investigation found nothing to substantiate the allegations. This should have been the end of it. A misunderstanding. A rumor gone too far. But instead, it opened a new chapter. One that exposed just how reckless things had become. Commentators who had confidently repeated the accusations now found themselves backpedaling. ESPN's Chini Ogwumika, one of the loudest voices calling for justice in the days following the game, suddenly changed her tone. She took to social media, saying she was sorry for her initial comments, blaming it on the heat of the moment. She said she had been moved by conversations with people close to the situation, but admitted that her commentary may have impacted fans in ways she hadn't intended. Yet nowhere in her apology did she walk back her original reporting. She didn't explain what she had heard, who she had spoken to, or how she had gotten it so wrong. There was no mention of the fact that she claimed coaches and players had heard out-of-bounds comments from the stands, comments that, it turned out, never existed. Instead of accountability, viewers got vague promises to do better. And this is where Megyn Kelly entered the fray. Known for her sharp commentary and refusal to play along with media groupthink, Kelly didn't hold back. On her show, she tore apart the entire controversy point by point. She highlighted the holes in the story, the lack of evidence, and the ease with which major networks had jumped on a race hoax with zero verification. She criticized the WNBA's decision to launch an official investigation based on anonymous social media posts, calling it irresponsible and dangerous. Kelly pointed out that once again, an accusation of racism had been used as a weapon, one that carried real consequences, despite having no foundation in truth. Kelly also emphasized the silence that followed. When the investigation concluded and found nothing, where were the corrections, the retractions, the re-examinations from the same outlets that had run the original claims nonstop for a week? She noted that the answer was clear. There would be no consequences. Not for Reese, not for the media, and not for the league. Because in today's climate, falsely accusing someone or an entire fan base of racism doesn't damage your career. It enhances your status. It wins you sympathy, headlines, and viral attention. And if the truth comes out later, no one seems to care. The question that kept echoing across social media wasn't just whether Reese was telling the truth. It was why a claim with zero verification had been taken so seriously by an entire league and broadcast media infrastructure. Why did this specific incident, born from a vague caption and ambient crowd noise, spiral into a national moment of outrage? Megyn Kelly wasn't shy about offering her theory. According to her, the answer is simple. The narrative was too convenient to resist. A story about a young black athlete allegedly being targeted by racist fans while facing off against the league's new white superstar practically wrote itself. It touched every culture war nerve possible. It was too tempting, too timely, too perfect for pundits and commentators to ignore. Kelly pointed out that this wasn't a rare occurrence, but part of a trend. One where race is increasingly used as a blunt instrument, even when the facts don't support it. And in this case, it served as a convenient shield for Angel Reese to redirect negative attention. After all, the game hadn't gone in her favor. She was visibly frustrated. And just like that, the narrative changed from one about sportsmanship to one about victimhood. Reese had a chance to walk the situation back, to clarify that she didn't mean to accuse anyone directly, or to explain the context of her social media post. But instead, she doubled down. She stood before reporters and gave a vague yet emotional statement, speaking about how hard it was to be targeted and how it could happen to anyone. But once again, when asked directly what had actually happened, she gave no specifics. That became a recurring theme throughout the entire incident. Powerful emotions, vague language, and no actual proof. And yet, fans were left to wonder, were they being lied to? Was the league being manipulated? Was there even a real event behind all of this? Or was it manufactured outrage fueled by nothing more than online noise and personal frustration? Megyn Kelly emphasized that Angel Reese wasn't just any player. She's part of a new wave of celebrity athletes who understand the power of narrative and image. She knows how to control the spotlight and how to direct the media. But this time, according to Kelly, she crossed a line, one that could have long-term consequences for the integrity of the league and its credibility with fans. Because this wasn't just about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark anymore. It was about what kind of precedent the WNBA was setting. If anonymous accusations from Twitter can launch a formal investigation, what happens the next time a player wants to create controversy? If league statements are crafted before any facts are verified, who decides what's real and what's performative? Kelly warned that these kinds of race hoaxes erode trust. They trivialize real racism by flooding the conversation with false alarms. And when you do that, you create a climate where even genuine complaints are met with skepticism and fatigue. It's the boy who cried wolf scenario, but with institutional backing and media amplification. And then came another twist that cast an even harsher light on how the media picks and chooses its battles. Around the same time that Reese was accusing fans of racism without evidence, another WNBA player found herself in the middle of a very different controversy. Brittany Griner, once again back on U.S. soil after a high-profile prisoner swap, found herself going viral. Not for her gameplay, but for something she appeared to say courtside. In the clip, Griner is seen mouthing something after a foul is called. To some, it looked like she said, "funning white girl." Others thought she said, "whack call." The video spread fast. And yet, something was missing. There was no outrage, no league statement, no investigation. Not a single mainstream outlet covered it with the same intensity they had given Reese's baseless claims, and certainly, no ESPN roundtable was convened to demand accountability. Griner herself didn't clarify the clip. She didn't deny it. She didn't issue a statement, and nobody in the press pushed her to. The silence was deafening. For Kelly and others, this was all the proof they needed. The outrage machine was selective. It didn't actually care about racism or hateful speech. It cared about headlines and power dynamics. And in that imbalance, a troubling message was sent. False accusations of racism are fine, even applauded, but alleged racism directed at white players? That gets swept under the rug. This, Kelly argued, was the double standard at the heart of the problem. The sports world, especially in leagues like the WNBA, was becoming a battlefield not just of talent and competition, but of carefully constructed narratives. And the moment those narratives leaned too far in one direction, facts no longer seemed to matter. The league's eventual statement should have been a full stop. It should have included the evidence they reviewed, the witnesses they spoke to, and the reasons why no substantiation was found. But instead, it was vague. It simply said the allegations couldn't be confirmed and the matter was considered closed. No transparency, no public details, just a quiet end to a week-long media circus. For many, that wasn't good enough. Why did the league allow the accusation to simmer for 10 full days before making a public statement? Why didn't they act sooner to calm the firestorm? And if they knew early on that the accusations were flimsy, why proceed with a public-facing investigation at all? Kelly suggested that the answer might lie in fear. Fear of backlash, fear of being seen as unsympathetic to a black female athlete, fear of media criticism, but in trying to protect the league's image, they created a mess that made everyone look worse. And then there was Caitlin Clark herself, largely silent throughout the entire ordeal. She didn't comment publicly on the foul. She didn't address the accusation. She didn't clap back or defend herself on social media. Some praised her for staying above the fray. Others wondered if she felt silenced by the politics surrounding the situation. After all, what could she say? If she denied the racism existed, she'd be accused of invalidating Reese's feelings. If she spoke up to defend herself, she might be seen as dismissive or arrogant. So, like many public figures caught in the middle of a controversy they didn't ask for, she said nothing. But her silence didn't stop her from becoming the target. Social media flooded with criticism of Clark, claiming she wasn't doing enough to speak out or support her opponent. Commentators painted her as the beneficiary of white privilege, completely ignoring the fact that she'd been the subject of repeated physical fouls and trash talk throughout her short career. Kelly was quick to point out the hypocrisy here. Clark was being bullied for staying silent, while Reese was being applauded for promoting a false claim. The narrative had completely reversed reality. This isn't just damaging to the league's credibility, it's damaging to the sport. Fans want to watch basketball, not be dragged into identity politics and culture wars. They want to cheer for their favorite players without being accused of supporting racism or bias. And they deserve better than being used as pawns in someone else's PR play. Kelly called out the media directly for their role in the fiasco. She argued that when you amplify accusations without fact-checking, you become part of the problem. And when you issue half-hearted apologies on social media, rather than correcting your mistakes on air, you lose all credibility. The path forward, she argued, has to include accountability, not just for players, but for the institutions and networks that cover them. If the WNBA wants to grow its fan base and be taken seriously, it can't afford to play these games. It can't afford to let false narratives fester and explode before quietly backing away. In the days following the WNBA's official statement, the media slowly backed away from the story. There were no in-depth follow-ups, no roundtable panels dissecting where things had gone wrong. The same commentators who had fanned the flames of outrage simply moved on, as if their previous accusations hadn't caused chaos for over a week, but the fans hadn't forgotten. The damage, as Megyn Kelly pointed out, had already been done. Trust had been eroded. Not just trust in the WNBA, but in the media outlets that were supposed to inform, not inflame. People had seen how quickly a false accusation could spread. They had seen how easily reputations could be put at risk over unverified noise. And they had seen how reluctant the league and the press were to take responsibility when the truth finally came out. For Kelly, the lesson was clear. This wasn't about one foul, one TikTok post, or one game. This was a warning about how broken the current media environment has become, how incentivized it is to chase clout and division rather than facts. And when sports becomes a stage for that kind of manipulation, it ceases to be sport. It becomes theater. Angel Reese, despite the fallout, didn't apologize. She didn't clarify what she claimed to have heard. She didn't walk back the implication that Caitlin Clark's fans were racist. And maybe that was the goal all along. not to raise a legitimate concern, but to stir up attention, shift the conversation, and portray herself as the victim in a game where she had been frustrated by the result. But while she may have won a moment of viral sympathy, it came at a price. Her credibility took a hit. And the fans, many of whom had come to the WNBA thanks to players like Caitlin Clark, were left wondering if they were being accused of something they never did. When leagues allow vague accusations to become national narratives without hard evidence, they risk alienating the very audience they fought so hard to build. Megyn Kelly went further. She argued that the real problem wasn't just the hoax itself, but the response to it. Because in a functioning league with real leadership, the moment the facts didn't add up, there would have been a course correction. A strong commissioner would have addressed the fans directly, clarified the findings of the investigation, and made sure the record was set straight, not just in a statement buried in a press release, but on national television. That never happened. Instead, the league offered vague conclusions, and the media remained conveniently silent. And once again, a racially charged narrative was allowed to live on, divorced from reality, because it was too uncomfortable to confront the truth. That's not just irresponsible, it's dangerous. And then there's the double standard, so glaring, so obvious, it's impossible to ignore. Imagine if the roles were reversed. If a white player had posted a TikTok about a black athlete using racially charged language, if that player had implied harassment from fans with no evidence, if media figures rushed to defend her without verifying a single detail, would the fallout have been so forgiving? Unlikely. Kelly pointed out that we now live in a climate where some forms of racism are shouted from the rooftops, even when they don't exist, while others are ignored entirely, even when they do. The clip of Brittany Griner allegedly mouthing something racial should have triggered the same kind of scrutiny, but it didn't, and her silence was taken as acceptable. Why? Because it didn't fit the narrative. The media didn't want to dig deeper into that clip. They didn't want to explore whether there was something there. And the WNBA certainly didn't want another headline. So they did nothing. No questions, no investigation, just silence. This selective outrage doesn't just discredit those who cry wolf, it creates a chilling effect on legitimate conversations about race. It makes fans suspicious. It makes players hesitant. It turns the whole system into a pressure cooker, ready to explode with the next viral clip, the next vague caption, or the next emotional post. Megyn Kelly's breakdown of the story served as a reminder that these aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of a much larger problem in sports and culture. A problem where narratives get crafted not based on truth, but based on which side will generate more clicks, more outrage, and more division. In her closing remarks, Kelly didn't hold back. She called for the league to take responsibility for the mess it allowed to spiral. She urged the media to own up to the damage they'd caused. And she warned that if these patterns continue, the WNBA risks losing the new audience it has finally started to gain. Because people tune in for the game, they stay for the talent, but they leave when they feel manipulated. Caitlin Clark, through all of this, maintained a level of grace and restraint that's rare for a player so young, so new to the professional stage. She didn't respond with anger. She didn't accuse anyone. She let her performance on the court speak for itself. And maybe that's the most powerful statement of all, that sometimes silence says more than 1,000 press conferences. But even as this chapter closes, the underlying issue remains. What happens the next time a player feels frustrated or embarrassed on the court? Will they reach for the race card because it's effective? Will the media once again jump in without checking facts? Will the league repeat its mistakes? Or will this moment finally serve as a wake-up call? Will fans demand better? Will players be more responsible with their platforms? Will journalists return to basics, verifying, investigating, and telling the truth, even when it's inconvenient? The answers to those questions may determine whether the WNBA can truly grow, or whether it will remain a league more defined by drama than by athletic excellence. And so, the real story here isn't just about a fake accusation, it's about how easily people in power can manipulate perception, how quickly institutions cave under social pressure, and how fragile trust becomes when truth no longer matters. Angel Reese may have walked away from this controversy without penalty, but the league's reputation didn't, and neither did the media's. Fans are paying attention. They saw what happened, and they won't forget. So now we ask you, was this a misunderstanding that got out of control, or a calculated move to bully a rising star using a race hoax as cover? And more importantly, how long will leagues and networks continue to protect false narratives over the fans they claim to serve?